Chosen. Your mind and intuition surprise those who watch you. Welcome, chosen one. Who told you that being different was a curse when in fact it was your crown? Let that sit for a second, because there's a reason why people look at you like you've just unlocked a secret level nobody told them existed. Why they lean in when you speak, like you're reading from a script they can't access. They whisper about you, not rumors. They whisper because they felt something shift in the room the moment you walked in. They can't explain it, but they felt it. Like you carry a frequency they don't tune into. Like you see through walls they didn't even know had windows. You don't just observe, you perceive. And that changes everything. Here's a fact to chew on. Science tells us the human brain processes 11 million bits of information per second. But most people only consciously perceive about 40. While the rest walks around in a blur of autopilot, you're standing there catching every glitch in the matrix, every micro-expression, every energy shift, every lie hiding behind a smile. Most people are sleepwalking through their own lives. You're the one who woke up, and that's not a gift, that's a responsibility. A dangerous one, so let's get into it. Because in this video, we're unpacking why your mind works differently, why your intuition sees what logic misses, and why your presence alone is starting to expose truths that people spent years burying. Buckle up. This ain't surface level. You're about to understand that what you see isn't a glitch, it's a feature, and the world is just now catching up to what you've always known. Number 1, your mind doesn't think, it sinks. Most people think with their brain. You think with your entire being. They process information linearly. A leads to B leads to C, safe, predictable, boring. But your mind doesn't follow the script. It makes connections that shouldn't exist. It sees patterns in chaos. It feels the weight of silence the same way others feel noise. That's not overthinking, that's overperceiving. While they were taught to trust what they see, you learn to trust what you feel. And here's the thing nobody told you. That gut instinct you have, it's not anxiety, it's not paranoia. It's your subconscious processing a million things your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. That's why people call you psychic. That's why they say you're too much. Because when you look at someone and know exactly what they're hiding, they don't feel seen. They feel exposed, and that terrifies them. You don't just read the room, you read the undercurrent, the energy beneath the words, the truth behind the performance, and when you speak it, they freeze. Because you just said out loud what they thought was invisible. That's not a gift people can fake. That's depth of perception that only comes from someone who's been through the fire and came out with eyes wide open. They can't figure out how you do it, but the truth is, you didn't learn it from a book. You learned it from survival, from paying attention when paying attention was the only thing keeping you safe. Number 2, you transformed pain into intuition. That's why you see what others miss. Most people were taught to ignore their pain, bury it, move past it. But you, chosen one, you went through it. You didn't skip the darkness. You walked into it alone, felt every inch of it, and somehow came out the other side with your senses sharper than before. Trauma does one of two things to people. It either blinds them or it upgrades them. It either shuts the mind down or it opens it up to frequencies most people will never hear. You chose the upgrade, not because you wanted to, but because you had no other choice. When nobody was coming to save you, you had to learn to see the exits nobody else could see. While they were numbing themselves with distraction, you were decoding your pain. You were asking, why does this feel wrong? Why does this person make me uncomfortable for no reason? Why do I know this ends badly before it even starts? Your nervous system became a radar, your gut became a compass, and your mind became a supercomputer that learned from every wound. That's why people don't understand when you say, I just know. They want logic, they want proof. But you already saw the ending 3 steps back, because you learned to read the signs the hard way. The signs that kept you alive. Your pain became your power source, and now that power is visible to everyone watching. Number 3, you stopped seeking approval and started seeing truth. Here's what nobody talks about. Most people are so busy trying to be liked, so desperate to be accepted, that they can't see what's right in front of them. Their need to fit in blinds them. Their fear of rejection silences their instincts. But you, chosen one, you stopped performing a long time ago. And the moment you did, the world got crystal clear. When you stopped caring about being accepted, you started seeing clearly. You weren't filtering everything through, will this be liked? Will this offend someone? Will I be rejected for this? You just saw the truth, unfiltered, unedited. And that's when it happened. The world stopped being a blur. People stopped being puzzles. Situations stopped being confusing. Because you finally removed the biggest obstacle between you and the truth, your ego's need to be loved. Now you see people for who they really are, not who they pretend to be, not who you wish they were, who they actually are, and that is a dangerous gift, because when you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And people feel that. They feel seen in ways that make them uncomfortable, because you're not playing the game they thought everyone was playing. You see through the masks, through the titles, through the charm. You see the fear underneath, the insecurity, the lie, and somehow that makes them want to either run or get closer. There's no in-between. That's the price of clarity. You can't unsee what you see. But honestly, you wouldn't go back even if you could. Number 4, you don't follow the crowd because you see the path. They thought your independence was arrogance. Your refusal to follow was rebellion without cause. But the truth is, you weren't being difficult. You were being visionary. While they were following the herd, you were looking ahead. You could see what the crowd couldn't see because you weren't looking where they were looking. You were looking where they refused to look. Your intuition doesn't just react, it anticipates. It shows you the destination before you even take the first step. It whispers warnings when the road looks clear. It pulls you back when everything seems fine. They called you paranoid, overcautious, too careful. But then the thing you saw coming came. And suddenly everyone remembers you said it. You warned them, but they weren't listening. That's the thing about intuition. It's quiet when everyone else is loud. It's calm when everyone else is panicking. It doesn't need proof, it doesn't need validation, it just knows. And because you learned to trust it even when it didn't make sense, even when logic screamed the opposite, you avoided things that would have destroyed others. You walked away from things that looked perfect but felt wrong. You stayed when everyone said to leave. You left when everyone said to stay, not because you're lucky, but because you see what they can't see. The path isn't always the popular one, but it's always the right one. And your mind knows the difference. Number 5, your mind is a shield and they don't know how to get past it. Let's be real, people have tried to manipulate you, tried to play you, tried to use your openness against you. But here's what they didn't count on. Your mind caught it before your heart could fall for it. Your gut flagged it before your emotions could override your judgment. You felt the lie the moment it touched your ears. And even if you couldn't explain it, even if you had no proof, you knew. That's a defense system most people will never develop, because it only comes from being burned enough times to learn the taste of fire. You didn't just survive manipulation. You learned to detect it from a mile away, while others fall for the same tricks over and over, wondering why they keep getting hurt. You see the pattern before it even starts. The person who talks too smoothly, the compliment that feels like a hook, the kindness that's too calculated. You feel it, and you act on it. People think you're cold, hard to reach, hard to convince. But the truth is, you've just been burned enough to know the difference between genuine and counterfeit, and you refuse to settle for less. That's not a wall. That's wisdom. And it's the reason you're still standing while others have been dismantled piece by piece. Number 6, you perceive things before the words come out. They haven't said it yet, but you already heard it. That's not a party trick. That's not a superstition. That's pattern recognition at a level most people can't comprehend. You've spent years learning to read people, reading rooms, reading energy. And now it's so refined that you know what someone is about to say before they say it. They walk into the room already defeated and you know before they sit down. They smile but their eyes are screaming and you feel it across the room. They say they're fine, but you can taste the lie in the air. That's not being dramatic. That's being awake. While they operate on what people say, you operate on what people are. And those two things rarely match. You see the gap between the mask and the face, the gap between the promise and the reality. And you navigate accordingly. They think you're psychic, but you're just present. In a world of sleepwalkers, being awake looks like magic. But it's not magic. It's attention. It's awareness. It's the skill you developed because you had to be to survive. And now that skill is so sharp that people don't just feel comfortable around you, they feel exposed, because you see through the performance before it even starts. Number 7. You see what nobody wants to admit, but everyone feels. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to hear. Most people don't want to be seen. They want to be accepted as they appear, not as they are. And you? You see the gap. You see the version of themselves they're hiding, the potential they're squashing, the dream they told themselves to stop believing in, the lie they built their life around. You see all of it, and that's why they gravitate toward you, because somewhere deep down they want to be seen, even if it terrifies them, even if they run at first. Something in them knows that you see the truth, and truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is the only thing that sets people free. You don't judge what you see, you just see it. And that non-judgmental awareness is what makes people feel safe enough to drop the mask. Not always, not right away, but eventually, because they know that with you, what they show is actually received. That's rare. In a world full of people performing, having someone who actually sees you is like finding oxygen after being underwater. You see what they don't want to admit, what they've buried so deep they forgot it existed, and when you reflect it back to them, it's not an attack. It's a mirror. And mirrors, Chosen One, are the most powerful tools in existence. Number 8. You don't get lost in the noise because you hear the signal. The world is loud, opinions everywhere. Everyone has a take. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone is shouting their truth like it's the only truth. And in the middle of all that chaos, most people lose themselves. They forget what they believed. They adopt other people's fears. They repeat other people's opinions, thinking they're their own. But you found the quiet in the middle of the storm. You learned to tune out the static and tune into the frequency that matters, your inner voice, your gut, your knowing. While they were drowning in content, opinions, and noise, you went inward. You asked yourself, what do I actually believe? What feels true to me, not to them? What does my intuition say when I strip away all the noise? And in that silence, you found clarity. Not the clarity of having all the answers, but the clarity of knowing what questions matter, the clarity of knowing which path is yours, even when it doesn't look like everyone else's. That's why you don't get swept up in trends. You don't fall for every new ideology that comes along. You don't abandon your truth every time someone with a bigger platform says something different. You're grounded, rooted, unshakable, because your foundation isn't made of other people's opinions. It's made of your own hard-won wisdom. And people feel that stability. They come to you when the world is spinning because you're the one who doesn't spin with it. You see clearly when everyone else is disoriented, and that alone makes you invaluable. Number 9. You perceive the energy before the fact happens. Let's talk about the thing nobody wants to admit they feel. Before it happens, you've walked into rooms and felt the tension before anyone said a word. You've met someone and known immediately they were trouble, even though nothing had happened yet. You've sensed a shift in a relationship 3 weeks before the breakup. You've felt a business deal go bad before the paperwork was signed, and everyone calls it coincidence, calls it paranoia, calls it overthinking. But you know what it is. It's your energy literacy, your ability to read the room at a frequency most people aren't even tuned into. Energy leaves traces, patterns, footprints. And your mind has learned to follow them, not through magic, through experience, through paying attention to the things others dismissed. Every time you ignored that feeling and got burned, you learned to trust it more. Every time you listened and avoided disaster, the evidence stacked up. Until ignoring it became impossible, until trusting it became second nature. That's not supernatural, that's supernaturally sharpened. It's the skill of a survivor. The gift of someone who learned that the whispers of the soul are smarter than the noise of the world. And now you walk through life with this invisible radar, picking up signals others can't even detect. It makes you mysterious. It makes them wonder. It makes them ask, "How did you know?" "Because I felt it," you say, and they nod like they understand. But they don't. Not really. Because they've never learned to trust what they can't explain. Number 10. You see the potential people abandoned in themselves. Here's what sets you apart in ways you don't even realize yet. While most people see what people are, you see what people could be. The version of themselves they buried under fear. The dream they gave up on. The person they were before the world told them to be realistic. You see the unlocked potential in people, the dormant greatness, the spark that never really went out, just got covered up. And that sight, it's a burden and a blessing. A burden because you see so much wasted possibility and you can't do anything about it unless they see it too. A blessing because when you believe in someone, you see all the reasons why they can rise. Not just the reasons why they might fall. That's why people remember how you saw them. Not what you said about them, not the advice you gave, but the way you looked at them when you saw who they really were. The way you made them feel like maybe, just maybe, they weren't as lost as they thought. You do that. Automatically. Without trying. Because you can't look at someone and only see the surface. That's not how your mind works. Your mind goes deeper. And that depth changes how you love, how you lead, how you connect. You see the buried gold in people. And that makes you a mirror for who they could become, whether they want to see it or not. Number 11. You're a magnet for truth and a repellent for lies. There's something about you that should terrify dishonest people. And if it doesn't, it should. Because you can't be fooled. Not easily. Not for long. You might miss it the first time. You might give someone the benefit of the doubt. But eventually the truth rises to the surface and you see it. And once you see it, you don't unsee it, ever. That's why manipulative people avoid you. That's why toxic patterns break the moment you enter a room. That's why people who are hiding something get nervous around you. Not because you're judgmental, but because your energy doesn't let lies breathe. You're not trying to catch anyone. You just can't turn off the knowing. The truth has a vibration, a frequency, and you feel it immediately. And when you feel it, your body responds, your face changes, your energy shifts, and somehow, they know that you know. That's not a skill you learned. That's a frequency you became. You spent so long in truth that lies feel like wearing someone else's skin. Discomfort, wrongness, a static that your whole being rejects. That's why you're drawn to authenticity. That's why fake people exhaust you. That's why you can spot a fraud from across the room before they even open their mouth. You're a truth detector, a lie repeller. And the moment you fully own that, you stop wasting time on people who aren't ready for the level of real you're operating on. Number 12. You're not difficult, you're precise. They say you're too much, too intense, too selective, too discerning, too careful with who you let in. But here's what they don't understand. You're not being difficult, you're being precise. There's a difference. Difficult is refusing for no reason. Precise is refusing because you've learned what you deserve and you refuse to accept less. Difficult is pushing people away out of fear. Precise is protecting your space because you know what contamination feels like. You know what it's like to let the wrong people in and pay for it. So you're not going to do that anymore. Not out of bitterness, out of wisdom, out of the knowledge that your mind, your energy, your gift deserves to be protected, not thrown at anyone who asks. They think your standards are too high, but they're not. They're just higher than theirs because your perception is sharper, your awareness is deeper, and you know exactly what kind of energy it takes to be around someone like you. You're not looking for perfect people. You're looking for real ones, and that's a smaller pool, but it's a pool worth waiting for. So let them call you difficult. Let them say you're too much. You're not too much. You're too aware to settle for less than what you actually need. Number 13. Your mind doesn't rest, it decodes. Here's what they never tell you about having a mind like yours. It doesn't stop. It can't stop. While they put their brain on autopilot and drift through life, you're constantly processing, constantly analyzing, constantly connecting dots that shouldn't even be on the same page. You wake up with answers to questions you didn't know you were asking. You fall asleep with insights that didn't exist when you lay down. Your mind works while you rest. It files, it organizes, it decodes, even when you're not consciously thinking about it. That's not insomnia. That's a supercomputer running in the background. That's a gift most people would pay millions to have, and you have it. And sometimes it feels like a curse because you can't turn it off. But here's the truth nobody tells you. That mind of yours? It's the reason you're still alive. It's the reason you survived what should have destroyed you. It's the reason you saw the exits when everyone else was stuck. It decoded your trauma into wisdom. It decoded danger into survival. It decoded pain into depth. And now it decodes the world around you with precision that would scare most people if they understood what they were looking at. So yes, it doesn't rest. But what it produces, what it creates, what it sees, that's extraordinary. And you don't get to be ordinary with a mind like that. So embrace it, even when it's exhausting. Especially then. Number 14. You see the invisible, and that is your superpower. Let's bring it all home. In a world that only believes what it can see, you believe what you can feel. In a world that trusts logic, you trust your gut. In a world that walks blind, you walk with your eyes wide open to dimensions they haven't even considered. That's not a malfunction. That's an upgrade. And the world is just now catching up to what you've always known. Your mind doesn't work differently. It works completely. It works the way minds are supposed to work before we were numbed by distraction, by fear, by the need to fit in. You kept your perception raw. You kept your awareness sharp, and you paid the price for it. Loneliness, misunderstanding, being called too sensitive, too intense, too different, too awake. But look at you now, still standing, still seeing, still knowing, still becoming the person you were always meant to be. That's not a coincidence, that's a calling, and your perception isn't a burden, it's a beacon. For you and for everyone lucky enough to stand in your light, so own it. The seeing, the knowing, the ability to perceive what no one else can. Because that mind of yours, that intuition, that's not your weakness, that's your superpower. And the world needs people who can see what others refuse to see, who can say what others are too afraid to admit, who can hold the mirror when everyone else is too scared to look. You're not here to fit in, you're here to illuminate. This is your truth. This is your gift. And the world may never fully understand it. But that's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be awake. And you've been awake for a long time now. Seeing what others can't see. Knowing what others are afraid to admit. Being what others will never become. So keep seeing. Keep knowing. Keep being the eyes that the world forgot it needed. Because, chosen one, you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to illuminate. If this message resonated with you, if you felt the truth in these words, then don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel so you can stay connected with more content that reminds you of the power you carry. Hit that like button if you felt seen today. Drop a comment below. I want to hear your experience. Tell me about a time your intuition saved you. Tell me about a time you saw what no one else could see. Share this with someone who needs to hear this truth. Someone who's been called too intense, too sensitive, too different. Someone who sees what others refuse to see. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know their gift is real. Let them know their mind isn't broken. It's expanded. Let's keep spreading the truth, the vision, the awareness. Together, keep seeing, keep knowing.